Yes, hello, folks. Welcome to the weekly Manchester United podcast. I'm your host, as always, Phil Brown. Joining my regular co-host, the excellent James Rhodes, who I haven't seen in over a week. As you can see, for those of our YouTube, our YouTube parish, you can see I'm sporting a brand new tan here.
Incredible,
I,
impressive.
I am impressed. Normally, I didn't think I could tan if I was getting cremated, mate. So, but just came back from a truly stunning week in Hawaii. So apologies. I was hoping to get this recorded on Monday, but it was another impossibility. But lots happened in the last week, mate.
Yeah, it's been busy, hasn't it? I mean, the season's kicked off, and as per usual, it's never a dull moment with United, is it?
Someone found out on the early hours of Sunday morning that they drew the short straw being in the room next to me, watching United, and that buying their goal.
Can
Which
I
we
ask you, 10 minutes in to a game that I think started 4:30 in the morning for you at that time, was it?
it was 5:30.
5:30. Okay, how was that? 5:40 in the morning watching that goal go in.
Do you know what, James? Is the Hawaiian time difference is the hardest time difference to adjust to because they're 3 hours behind us. New York, everything else, they're ahead, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're behind. And I actually didn't adjust to the time until the day I left. Right, it was the first day I get
Yeah.
up at like 8 a.m. Hawaiian time. Right, it's a really weird time adjustment to get used to. But the plus side is you get up really early in Hawaii to see the
Yep.
most. I mean, I'm not joking. That place is paradise. Do you know what I really like about it on the Big Island teams? The big, it still retained a lot of its originality. It hasn't,
Yep.
sold out to big resorts. It hasn't,
Yep.
I saw one police officer there in a week, which is unusual because normally like a bat signal, they're attracted to me. But no traffic, right? Because and once you get outside like the main resorts, you see how Hawaiians live, and it's still very close to what it was the indigenous Hawaiians. Going back, and you just make these random discoveries. You'd find these little coves and stuff that were just absolutely beautiful. Just what a beautiful place. It's yeah, it was an amazing, brilliant week, and just wanted to get my kids off their iPods, James, and appreciate nature because we took them
Yep.
through the parks and stuff. And I was really pleasantly surprised by my own kids who were really into it and never complained once about not having their iPads, which was cool, mate.
That's
But
good.
yeah, but I got up with Aiden. We watched the match on Sunday, and I had said before, whatever happens, do not lose this game due to in swinging corners, right? I can't even begin to describe an FBI profiler would have been looking at my psychological profile when that ball went in. I'm impressed my phone survived it, but quick overview of Arsenal and move on. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't. Other than that, it was actually a really good game. Almost surprisingly good in terms of a lot of the things we wanted to see. Obviously, you get the basic frustrations of two things, and sometimes you start to think, is there something bigger going on here? United can't score a goal still somehow, and United still concede off of a mistake. That being said, you know, they had 22 shots on the opposition. They created a lot of chances. They created a lot of opportunities. They controlled the game, 61% possession. We should not forget, of course, that this is an Arsenal that have finished second 2 years in a row, where United finished 15th last season. It's the opening game of the year. Benjamin Šeško obviously was not ready yet to start. I'm sure he will be at this weekend, but was not ready to start. You went with a bit of a thrown together front three of Cunha, Mount, and Bumo. I think the thing that is the most positive to me is the new players they signed were great. They looked exactly like you'd expect them to look in terms of their effect on the game. Cunha and Bumo, they were really strong. They were hard to deal with. They're doing what you expect when you sign Premier League players, right? To come in and they have the pace, they have the physicality, they get how to play against the defenders. They're running past them, they're winning their duels, they're doing the things that you want. I was encouraged by the fact that the team together looked very good. They looked like they were on the same page for the most part. I felt that, I was very worried beforehand about, what you'd see with a Bruno Fernandes and a Casemiro midfield. But even with Casemiro not moving that quick these days and things like that, they were pretty solid. They were very good. Uh, the back line stepped up really well to protect them, to assist, to help, to follow the striker. There's not a lot of negatives to take away in terms of how they played football outside of just, the ball ending up in the wrong net. And other than that, it's like,
Well, I'll tell
it
you what,
was,
James.
yeah.
I'm so sick and tired of playing Arsenal and coming out on the wrong end of a decision. You'll not see the rest of the season.
And the ref, we
This is
have to mention the penalty that should, it's
the Hoyland,
100%.
the Hoyland
It's not,
penalty at Emirates, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
a. I'm sorry, that's a penalty. That is a
yes, of
penalty,
course.
right?
Yeah,
The Garnacho offside, which is a hair's breadth,
yeah,
and Cunha. I'm watching the game the next night. It's Leeds and Everton, and exactly the same thing happens. Only it's outside the box, and it's a free kick. I'm like, how is it possible that this is not a penalty? And then
yeah,
you have Dermot Gallagher, who's not on defending the decision; he's defending the people making the decision.
yeah.
Because if the referee
Foot
gives out a
contact,
penalty, Dermot Gallagher is unequivocal about it being a
of
penalty,
course,
right?
of
No
course.
question. I mean, it's blatantly obvious to you, me, and everyone why it's a penalty. And instead, you have to invent things like phantom limb syndrome, right? That somehow the Arsenal player had his feet planted, that Cunha ran into it. This is nonsense. It's a penalty, James. It's a stone cold penalty. And we have to
100%.
listen to Dermot Gallagher say things every single week that are blatant. I remember him talking about how Casemiro's was definitely a red card. And then a week later, seeing exactly the same incident and saying that wasn't. And see this. This is a penalty. It's a stone cold
Yeah.
penalty, right? It should be given. It wasn't given. There are some things from that game that were interesting to me. Like you pointed out, Casemiro, no Kabi Mainu. United badly need a midfielder. Mama Lagarty comes on before Kabi Mainu. Mama Lagarty once again having an underwhelming performance.
Yep.
What is the situation with Kabi?
Yeah, and I did a video on this yesterday, and frankly, I don't think it's particularly that dramatic. I think there's a few factors in this, right? One thing is that change came at 65 minutes left in the game, right? United were 65 minutes into the game, rather. So you still have a good 30 minutes of game time left. They weren't necessarily chasing, a goal in the last 5 minutes or something like that, trying to just throw everybody forward by that point in time. Arsenal made a few changes, bringing on Madueke and others to potentially still play on the break. I thought at the time, there's nothing really wrong with the change of, substituting Casemiro, defensive midfielder, for Manuel Ugarte, a defensive midfielder. Ugarte's position in the game was sitting in the back line. He was into the back three and just in front of him, shielding, breaking up counters, things like that. That was his job. So in a sense, it's kind of just, it's not really a how would I put it? It's not really Kabi Mainu's game. I think part of what happened there is, if you look at them just positionally, you would say it's Bruno and Mainu, and it's Casemiro and Ugarte. Because we've seen in preseason Bruno and Casemiro and Mainu and camera's going crazy there. And we've seen in preseason that those are kind of the pairings, right? When Mainu starts, he starts next to Ugarte. When Bruno starts, he starts next to Casemiro, and that's just seemingly the dynamic that that he's selected for this. And I think that it's kind of like you wouldn't necessarily question, like, well, why did Mason Mount, like, if Kabi wasn't there and Mason
Let
Mount,
me ask you this then:
yeah.
why, if that's your strongest team that you're picking against one of your strongest rivals at home, why is Ahmad and Kabi Manu not in that team?
So I have a different answer for Ahmad, but I can't actually share it, unfortunately. But it has nothing to I would just
I'm just
chalk it
saying.
up to just chalk it up to fitness. Let's just put it that way. Just chalk it up to a small fitness issue. Let's just leave it at that. It wasn't like necessarily even a tactical choice. It was a small fitness issue, which is why he got him on quite fast. I mean, even for Amorim, it was quite an early substitute. I think 55 minutes. Ahmad will probably start at right wing back next week. I would just chalk it up to a small fitness issue. But I can't say more than that. That's all. Anyway, but no. But I think the other factor in this too was the fact that Benjamin Šeško didn't start the game, so you had to get him on the pitch at that point in time too. If he starts, you might change the shape a little bit after at 65, 70 minutes and put Kobbie Mainoo up front somewhere in the 10s or in the attacks we can get in the final third. But I think there's just a few things in that.
Let me ask you a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Far be it from me, by the way, to defend Samuel Luckhurst, but I do think he had somewhat of a point. If you need to start Tom Heaton the weekend, does that goal happen?
No, and you know what? I said before the game, I'd like to see Tom Heaton play. I'd like to see Tom Heaton play because I actually think he's still a good keeper, considering the ones that you have. I mean, I don't think he's an every game necessarily keeper at his age and all of that, but I watched him in preseason. I spoke with him.
James, here's the thing for me.
Why can't he do it?
That goal belongs in last season. That goal is a farce, a calamity, right? That's a type of goal that you should see once a season. It should result in immediate correction on the pitch, and you never see again, right? Because it just is so out of place at this level. It is honestly beyond parody. And when I was putting that tweet out the other day before the game, I did still worry about this because the reason why those goals are being conceded has nothing to do with VAR, by the way, or whether VAR is present or not. It has to do with the type of goalkeeper we're looking at. They don't happen at the other end of the field for a very simple reason, right? Yeah. Go back to that game that Hoyland, was fouled in. Arsenal won that game. Was it 2 late corners? Remember that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And then they win again at the Emirates on corners, right?
Yep.
And here we are again, we're losing on corners.
Yep.
Like, James, I'm sorry, but like that stuff doesn't belong at this level. Yeah. And Ruben Amorim was the one that said, I'm happy with my squad. Okay, well, then you're responsible for this because you chose not to bring I'm certain that Ruben Amorim went into Ineos this summer and said, the first player we have to send is a goalkeeper. He'd have got one. If he's going to turn around and defend his goalkeepers and say, I understand why he would, but he certainly had no problems attacking other players previously. But okay, he's going to defend his goalkeepers. Then you're responsible for what happens with them on the field. Sure. That's your mistake, right? It's not. Forget about whether there was a foul on this person or that. The goalkeeper needs to do his job. The goalkeeper needs to make sure this is not. Let's have a discussion of whether it's a foul after you clear the ball, not when it was in the back of your net.
Yeah,
and this is what I was saying before. I don't care. This is where it gets demoralizing. I don't care how good your outfield players are. I don't care if you've got 10 Galacticos. If you've got a guy throwing the ball in the net, because it changed everything. Everything.
Of course.
It changed how Arsenal played. Now Arsenal winding the clock down. Now Arsenal are holding on to the ball, rolling about, throwing it out. Now they have United where they want them, and it changes everything. And it's like. It's not even that United lost. They had a goalkeeper that can't defend a simple corner. Do you want to see him in goal for Fulham? How many times do you need to learn the same lesson?
Yeah, I know. And it is, look, the fact of the matter is that, clearly there's concern over the goalkeeper. That much is true because they've spoken about goalkeepers this summer. They've looked at goalkeepers this summer. They made an offer for Emi Martinez this summer on loan to bring in this summer. So it's clearly a problem that they see. However, it seems to be a problem that they believe they can deal with not getting this summer. And if you're going to make that decision, then you're responsible for the consequences of that decision. And you're going to eat the criticism from what happens from a decision like that. So, we've seen it already once, which is honestly one more than enough, especially, if it happens in week 12, the first mistake, you're going, all right, we've had a bunch of good games. A mistake will happen here and there. But the fact that it happens in the first 10 minutes of the first game of the Premier League season, to me, you're looking at that and going, how can you have any confidence it's not going to happen again? Beyond some blind hope that maybe, that it's just because Bayindir hasn't played a lot of games and he'll actually get better if he plays a lot of games,
James, this is all great. Ruben Amorim needs wins. Needs to win games of football. We can't.
Yeah.
We're sitting here at the weekend with another. Hey, we played well but didn't win result.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how
You
long?
can't have more of them. Those can't
No,
keep going.
mate. I respect the fact that the consolation is United did play well, but
Yeah.
United played well against Arsenal last season at Old Trafford and lost.
Yeah.
Right?
Or drew, I think we did. Yeah, 1-1.
Did not lose 1-0, or was it a draw?
That was, I think, the prior year. It was 1-1, I think, against them.
1-0
And
was the year
yeah,
Casemiro was centre back, but they played well against them at home last season. Right?
yeah, yeah, and didn't get the 3. And they should have won that game too, and didn't win it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So and the other thing is, mate, you didn't score against Spurs, right?
yep,
You have spent a couple of 100 million on an attack that didn't score again.
yep.
You left Hoyland out, which is fine. This was your decision, right? Chose not really to play with a striker, and that was an obvious tactical flaw in that lineup.
Yeah,
So
you could see it in the first half. Yeah,
So United are now 1-0 down in a game where they don't have the numbers up front to pose a serious threat. I think Dorgu hit the post from 25 yards. But there wasn't really much in the way of United creating serious close chances, and that was an obvious, to me, a very causal aspect of Ruben Amorim and the team and system that he picked to play. Tried to get the numbers in the second half. Obviously brought Seshko on, and it had a bit more of a focal point in attack.
yep.
But I could see things in that game, James. Manuel Ugarte almost throws the game away immediately after coming on. Brian Deere was his choice,
Yep.
right? So you're responsible for the mistake, for the things that happen, especially when you're talking about someone that we already know is prone to these types of errors.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, and look, I mean, absolutely, that is correct. Absolutely, for sure, is correct. The question on the strikers is, like, you could see in the first half there was a number of instances. I think Patrick Dorgu gets forward, looks to cross. There's nobody in the box. There's no focal point. There's nobody up front, and it was a clear deficiency. Now, and that's one where you can say, all right, fine. You got this striker in. He'll be starting by next week. He just wasn't ready to play. Okay, well, you have to correct that. And you will ideally correct that in the next game and not play without a striker again moving forward. But yeah, it's correct. When you there are things that happened in the game that are the choice just based on the choices made. And there's that ended up with that kind of outcome. And those are things that have to solve. I mean, it's the first game of the season. You can expect some of the choices to not work out, but as a season, each game that goes forward, each one becomes more and more consequential in that respect, and you have to be learning from them. And that's my biggest question. What do we learn from Arsenal to take into the next game? That this is not going to happen again, because it can't happen again, right? If you go and beat Fulham next week after a good performance against Arsenal, you can take that and say, good, we performed well game one. Some things got messed up. We didn't win. Fine. You go into game two, you perform well again, and you get the win. Then it reframes the way you look at the first week. But if you don't win, then you're not going to get the credit for playing well in week one at all.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen.
The present moment always defends the past.
Yeah.
So and the future. So yeah, of course. What happens this weekend will determine whether last weekend was something to be encouraged about or something to be concerned about.
Yeah,
because Fulham are a decent side, James. And I was after that Arsenal game, I was thinking, that might be the best performance I've seen from United on an opening day fixture. And let's be honest, it hasn't been glorious on the opening day for quite a while. If you look at Fulham last season, they scraped a 1-0 win. The Wolves result, no one will ever forget. Then of course Ten Hag starts, and there was we
did have good ones under Solskjaer, right? We had a 4-0 Chelsea, and we had that Leeds one, which we all thought we were winning the titles those seasons.
So we're not exactly renowned at the minute for fast starts. But James Ruben Amorim has a tough start. He has to win games of football. This plucky, unlucky loser. United deserve a lot of credit for how they played against Arsenal. There's no doubt about that. But if you can't finish, and I've said this before, that's not unlucky. You're lacking a very, very important skill. If you're a boxer and you don't have a knockout punch, that's not unlucky.
Yeah,
You're lacking basic fundamentals that are going to hurt you at the very highest level. So,
for sure.
look, we can't make that assessment, obviously, because I think, truthfully, at the very least, United should have drawn that game with a penalty.
Yeah, with the penalty. Yeah,
It's having a
agreed.
penalty. There's just no
Yeah,
two ways about it, right? And I know we complain about all the decisions, sometimes unfairly, sometimes, we see bias where it doesn't exist. That's a stone cold. I don't
yeah.
even understand how one
I'm
of
not
them.
even asking for the foul on the keeper like some people are. I said it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
But the penalty, there's zero. I mean, it was embarrassing just going back to that. When you watch that thing with Dermot Gallagher and you've got the Arsenal
Jay,
fan,
Jay
presenter,
Well, he was
Jay,
an ex-player. Yeah, Jay Boothroyd.
yeah,
Yeah.
ex-player calling him out and saying, what do you mean it's not a penalty? Like fully like agreeing it's 100% a penalty and thinking he's ridiculous
Well,
for defending the decision.
I saw a penalty given at that end on Rodri,
Yeah.
which was never given again.
Yep.
If that's a penalty, James, and I'm
Yep.
thinking penalties last season that were given against United. If
Yep.
that's, I mean, whenever there's new rules come in, it always seems to be that United or the guinea pig will try them out on United and deny them to United, and then you'll never see them again. That's a penalty. Should have been given, wasn't given. But some other things, of course, leading up to that game, Baliba.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I put out a tweet right immediately after that, which was just an opinion, because I do believe this, that there'll be a lot more discussions going on with United and Brighton and Baliba, not necessarily to get him this summer, but to get him on the long term.
Yep.
But I still feel like there could be a twist in that tail before the end of the window, because I still think there's another aspect of the window to happen, where we haven't got to the point where clubs are desperately going to try to sell players. And if I'm Brighton, all the things that they're saying right now, James, are things I would say, even if I'm a willing seller, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the 115 million price tag surely won't have shocked United. That was something that they would have had an appraisal thereabouts long before we got to this point, right? That's one of the first things you settle on. Am I going to pursue this piece of property? Okay, what's the ballpark price? Okay, upper end. Okay, this is the worst case scenario. In terms of waiting until next season and stuff, 12 months is a mile away, is another century away. Ruben Amorim may not even be in this job 12 months. But that was the discussion. So coming into the game, there's been other players linked from Sevilla, Guri, I think the kid's name is. Any update on that?
Not really. A couple of the players that I know that they have looked at in addition and have frankly been looking at for years. I've been talking about them are Adam Wharton and Morten Jolmand. Obviously, Jolmand being at Sporting. Now, to be very clear on this point, United were following him last year before they appointed Ruben Amorim. So he's been a long-term player they've been looking at. And Adam Wharton, they've been following since he was 17. I think it's Andy Mitten who said they could have even signed him before he went to Palace, but chose not to because of the view of signing a championship player. Pretty hilarious stuff that has gone on at United over the years. But they're two.
We could have had Cesco for about $1.5 million.
Anyway, regrets of the past, but they looked at both. They have looked at both of them. I think the issue having both cases is that Crystal Palace, after having lost a number of players, and now as well leaving to Arsenal following Kai Havertz's injury, the likelihood of them being willing to let him go is near zero. He's probably their best player at this point in time. They're in the Conference League. They're in Europe for one of the first times after this sort of odd situation where they should have been in Europa, but they have this ownership issue that's gone on. They're in Europe. They've bought 0 players, I believe, this summer, and they've lost players. I don't think they'll lose any more. So that one looks really difficult.
Is that right?
Yeah, I believe it is. Maybe I'm missing something that they've bought like one, but I don't know that they've bought anybody.
That's incredible. I'm surprised someone hasn't gone for Glasner.
Yeah, he's so they've brought in Borna Sosa for 2.3 million euros, 27 years old from Ajax. That's it. And a 32-year-old backup keeper. And they have to go and play in Europe this year.
Wow, that's
yeah, it's bad. It's bad. It's kind of a shame, actually. So now that it's not a good situation. I think Glasner actually commented on it publicly already about the concern over that. So yeah, I don't see them selling out of Morton after Eze at this point in time, especially because Liverpool are also trying to take Guehi from them too. So that makes it pretty hard in that respect. With Yeoman, I think he could be sold, but I think the price that Sporting are asking for him, something like 80 million euros, is not the valuation that United would be putting on him to buy as a player. Even he's good, but I don't think he's viewed as that good
No.
necessarily in that bracket. So it's a lot of money. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
it's
don't
absurd.
know. It's like,
How do
yeah,
you turn around and say Martin Holman's worth 80 million? By what metric?
yeah, I
There's
don't
not one of
know.
the Portuguese that gets him there. If you're 26, I mean, it's absurd, right? But whatever.
Yeah.
We've also had the situation with Alejandro Garnacho, which clearly Chelsea are playing a game,
Mm.
and
Mm-hmm.
Garnacho's playing a game, probably a similar game that Jadon Sancho was playing.
Mm-hmm.
Garnacho sitting here wanting to delay this till the very last minute in the hope to force United's hand to where they're willing to accept either you compensating him to go away or a reduced figure or whatever. I do think the Sancho and Garnacho situations are two very different situations. In that one, United should do whatever it takes to get Jadon Sancho out of the football club, whatever it takes.
Yep.
Alejandro Garnacho is a whole different situation. If there's 25 million on the table from Chelsea, that's it on deadline day, make him stay. Because this
Yeah.
is not just about Garnacho, this is about the next
Yeah.
Garnacho.
Correct. Yes.
This is about setting the precedent, saying, no, we're not going to be bullied by a football club. 25 million is around an hour to you. Okay. You're paying 50 million for football players that nobody's heard of. And you're going to come here and ask us, we had to pay 60 million for Mason Mount, right? And you're going to come here and take,
Mm.
by the way, if I'm Garnacho and I'm someone, this is what they value you as, you're not going, if they're only willing to play 25 million, so you're not going there to play.
Mm-hmm.
And what type of person is willing to sacrifice their international career to go to Chelsea? Like, the biggest indictment on Garnacho is not his performances, it's the way he's handled this, his attitude. The Argentina team came out, you're not in it. You're willing to risk sacrificing a World Cup, maybe the last one you'll ever have with someone like Messi, right? Definitely the last one you'll ever have with someone like Messi. And you are doing stuff like this. This to me, either he has advisors that are completely out of their depth or they hate him.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agreed because the decision making is this might be the worst mistake of his entire career and could have massive long-term consequences. When you disappear into that Chelsea hole of 35 people in the squad, you don't know what's going to come out of it. But I made this point a couple of weeks ago. I said, if Chelsea are willing to start the season without signing you, they keep signing players and they're not,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, it's done it again. Um, and let me zoom it out here. They keep signing players and it's not you.
CIA
Then
watch the camera.
I know
Oh,
they keep signing players, but not
only fans are on the wrong camera, man.
apparently so. Right, supposed to zoom in on something else. I can't say.
Oh, hey.
Anyway, um, if they're willing to sign all these other players and not you, and it's August 21st, and they haven't made an offer for you, and they've started the season and they haven't bought you, and they're willing to pay 55 million for Jamie Gittins, and they're saying we value at 25. Do they even want you?
We value with Jadon Sancho's price, son.
Yeah, they don't
Look,
want you.
I
You're an
know.
asset. They're gonna flip him for
So
more money in a year. That's their plan. You can see it if they even get him at all.
what that strategy tells me is there's been a coordinated strategy with Garnacho to me to do stuff like
Yes.
this. Right.
Yeah.
This is obviously Garnacho's obviously confident that this move is going to happen on some level. Yep. Chelsea must have told him off the record, look, whatever happens, we'll end up paying United's asking price if we have to get you out of there. Okay, just sit tight, because it's the only thing that explains why he's behaving this way. Now, James, here's the thing with Chelsea. Chelsea tapped Sancho up 2 seasons ago, right before the whole blow up happened at Spurs away with Ten Hag, right? And they done it on Instagram, right? So
Yeah.
their message, and I mean, Sancho, there's been a flirtatious relationship. So it's just between Sancho and Chelsea for a while. Sancho expects to go to Chelsea. The move doesn't materialize. Ends up costing himself, essentially, in my opinion, the most pivotal aspect of his career. That decision is he's never truly recovered from. Um, then they do the same with Garnacho last season, and
Mhm.
we saw the way Garnacho, especially after January and his performances just were trash. But not just his performances, his attitude. You know, when you're going away to Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and you look like you you're on a perp walk. You look like it's a. I don't care what you're going through, son. I don't care how much you hate Manchester United. You are still in an enormously privileged position, and you have a certain decorum when you represent the football. You can have bad days, that's fine, but giving
Mhm.
people fingers and they're behaving like it's you just respect what's on the badge,
Yeah.
respect the football club's history, respect all the people were never good enough to make it, respect the football club and its dignity. Like you, and to me, you know, I remember once Varane when he went to Chelsea and he cleaned out his locker or whatever, and Ferguson was like, "This deal isn't done yet." Blah blah blah. Was really unhappy with the way Varane handled it. Varane then claimed later that it was a terrible mistake and how I
Yeah.
went about it. This is going. This is tragic, James. 'Cause I don't think Garnacho is. I think this is going to wreck his career.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, the fact is that there's a distinct possibility at the end of this that he doesn't move at all at the end of this window, and that he spends 6 months with the reserves and the under 21s not playing football. Um, will be extremely unimpressive to one of the most competitive national teams in the world in Argentina. They're not short of talent. They're, it's like that's the thing too. Is it's like they
Why
don't need,
haven't
there's
Scaloni get a hold of them, Jamesy? Why? That's what I can't understand. Forget it. I don't care if you hate a Marine. Why isn't Scaloni getting a hold of him saying, "What are you doing?"
yeah, yeah. I know. It's just yeah. It's not. It's very weird. It's just really, really, really strange. But I don't know who he listens to. I don't know who he talks to. He should have taken a move to Napoli. If I was a footballer in today at United and I wanted to leave and Napoli were in, I'd be at Napoli.
Did
You look
young
at Rasmus
Argentina did?
Højlund today, looking at a move to Napoli to replace Lukaku's being injured. You look at what happened with McTominay there. Look at all the players that have gone to from United to Italy in general. Ashley Young, Darmian, Mkhitaryan. You have success after success after success. They get in their national teams, they win titles, they become legends of the league.
A beautiful country,
What are
football
you
mad,
doing?
right?
Low
Football mad,
taxes, like
beautiful country, beautiful women. Oh, end up with a suntan like this, right?
yeah,
They're mad, seeing fans, right?
yeah,
And you're
tons of history. Yeah,
young
like
Argentinian
an
going to play
Argentinian.
at the Diego Maradona Stadium. What is wrong with you, son? Jake, this is. I don't understand why. What would be the fixation on? No disrespect to Chelsea, right? But
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea, Napoli's a bigger club than Chelsea. Chelsea may be commercially bigger, but
Yeah.
Napoli is a bigger football club than Chelsea, right?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
So I don't understand why. I maybe if Chelsea are like City, where they win the league every year, okay,
Mhm.
okay, or even I hate to say it, having success Liverpool are having.
Mhm.
I, I would be surprised if Maresca significantly improves on last season, right? I think they'll
Yeah.
be top four, thereabouts. That's about it. I mean, they were poor against Palace in the opening game of the season. They should have lost that game with the unbelievable decision given against Eze. It
Yeah.
was just defies belief, right? And there's still an enormous amount of footballers there that need to get moved on, that they have
Yeah.
to get rid of. And to me, James, like if I'm an agent or representative of a young player, I'm saying that the one place you don't go is Chelsea, but it's not my problem. But it should get done. I would be surprised if Garnacho is still a United player by the end of the window, but I hope that he is still a United player by the end of the window if 25 million is the only offer on the table. Anthony James.
Same thing, isn't it? And I wonder about the same thing because he's also a player who's going to have to fight hard to be in that Brazilian national team under Ancelotti. If he's not playing, he's not going to get in. Why he's also turned down moves to Leverkusen, to Como, and to other clubs as well for some terrible offer from Batiste that's sitting there.
Yeah, it's funny because I see football clubs bidding 40 million for this player, 50 million. And then when it comes to United, we'll do a co-ownership deal where, every week you drop off food supplies and then next week I'll drop off food supplies. And then if you happen to sell them, we'll give you 40 quid here and we'll give you 60, we'll give you an extra 60. What nonsense is this?
Yeah.
Like, why is it United players are the players that clubs can never afford? They can afford every player, but they can't afford Man United players. United need to get respect in that market because again, with the Anthony thing, it's about the next one. United are starting to get some respect in how they, they're in how they acquire players because they're showing nuance, patience, they're showing acumen, and they've always had a poor reputation as a selling club. To be fair, most top clubs don't sell well because they're not selling players that are succeeding, So it's definitely something that Anthony should not be leaving Manchester United on a co-ownership deal. I'm sorry, right? And Jadon Sancho is from one player United just need to cut their losses on somehow and get him out the door, whatever. He's never going to play for a club again. If they don't have a contract, if they don't have him out the door by the end of September, by the end of the window, a lot of people are talking about canceling his contract. I wouldn't, because you're going to pay him anyway. I'd just make him sit down because I think that's what he'd like for you to do. Time Malacia, I mean, he's going to end up going on loan to some average team somewhere, isn't he?
Seems like it.
But then the other one is Rasmus Højlund, where seems to be that he's demanding, if it's a loan, a firm obligation to buy.
Yeah, it seems that that's the case. Now, for the most of summer, Rasmus has not wanted to leave United, but obviously in the last few weeks, it's been made very clear to him that he doesn't have a place in the team moving forward. I think obviously he's not been kicked out in the same way as some of the others, but effectively you look at the minutes and say, you're not even going to make it into the match day squad most days. That can seem harsh, but at the same time, it's actually not that big of a surprise when you look at the number of players that they have. Like I was looking at their preferred starting 11 the other day. If you assume it's, Šeško and Casemiro and Cunha and Bruno and all of those guys. Well, if you look on the bench, you've got Joshua Zirkzee, Mason Mount. Oh my gosh, it's doing it again. I got to fix my camera. You've got Joshua Zirkzee, Mason Mount, Manuel Ugarte, Kobbie Mainoo. Then you've got Diogo Dalot or Ahmad, whichever one. Then you're going to have three center backs because you play a 3 center back system. So you have Harry Maguire or De Ligt, Luke Shaw or Aiden Heaven, Lenny Yoro or Mazraoui, and then you're going to have a keeper. You've already got a full 9 on the bench, and that's without a backup left back in there. Like, you still have to make a decision. Do you include Diego Leon into the squad, and who do you drop for him? And that's without, sometimes they, for whatever reason, have brought 2 goalkeepers. I don't know why that's done, but that's with 1 goalkeeper on the bench, and most of these positions.
Maybe we need to start 2 of them at the same time.
Yeah, maybe that's the answer. So you look at that and you go, well, who do you drop out of the squad for Rasmus Højlund today?
Okay,
you can make an argument, but I don't think that the managers rates him over any of those other players that are on the bench, but for different reasons too, because you kind of need certain positions to be on the pitch.
Well, let me come at this from devil's advocate, from the player's perspective, right? Yeah. We've seen all this, criticism towards Alexander Isak, and talked about it with Garnacho and stuff. But what was the United players, the exiled United players were called a few weeks ago? Was a bomb squad.
The bomb squad, yeah.
So when clubs don't want you, they're happy to exile you. You're not training. You're not. You're essentially on strike. We're going to cut you out.
Yep.
I don't care whether you want to stay here. We're getting rid of you. Okay, we're going to exit. Now, of course, the club's paying you, that's the right. But for a football player, if they do that, they're considered, treasonous. But if a club decides we don't want you and we're going to call you, like, me and James, that's fucked up beyond belief. I'm sorry, like bomb squad. That is honestly like that is fucked up, James. United should have addressed that. That is a really terrible pejorative term to describe football players. Because it's not about the 5 players you're describing. It's about what type of institution permits that. Because inevitably there'll be other players after this that will go through similar, and you're going to be called bomb squad. Like, no, that's not okay, James. These are football players. If Manchester United players were on line calling United bomb squad, they would be eviscerated. This is where Ruben Amorim and stuff needs to stand up and say, look, no, we're not going to describe these people like this. And then you're going to go to the market and ask for 50 million. Like, this strategy United had with selling these players was deeply flawed from day one. And Ruben Amorim, I'm sorry, has to take some responsibility. But you're coming out and you're saying, about players being the worst in United's history, and you better hope that someone finds a club to. Then this is exactly what you should expect.
Sure.
You're going to struggle to get rid of players. You go to any transaction, James. Okay, typically the person that wins is the person that is willing to walk away.
Yeah.
Okay, if your threshold, if there's an inequity between the two parties, one person is willing to walk away, and this person needs a deal, has a much greater desperation. This person moves.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
So this wasn't just some serendipitous accident, James.
Yeah, agreed. And the thing, to be fair, on Rasmus Højlund is that I don't think it should be stated about him that he's done anything wrong. He's simply out of favor. But I definitely agree that, like, he shouldn't be critiqued because he's done the opposite, frankly, as a lot of these other guys. Like, he shouldn't be criticized for wanting to stay at United, for wanting to be at United, because he's done kind of the opposite of a lot of other players that get criticized for wanting to leave and not wanting to train and whatever factors might be in that with them. He wants to be at United. He wants to fight for his place. I'm not going to criticize him for that. If he doesn't have minutes, and he's just out of favor, then so be it. I think that the Højlund situation and sale is probably should he end up being sold, is probably a better sort of, the way that it's gone, I think, is better than it has for other players in the past, because he's not been kicked out. Nobody's briefing he's like a piece of shit or anything like that. He's just, hey, there's not going to be a lot of minutes for you. And you probably, if you want to continue career and be playing every week, you should probably seek a move away. That's normal. That's how you sell players in a usual capacity. And he was on the preseason tour, he was with the team, he was in the group. So it's not like anything crazy here. He's just maybe 19th, or 21st in the list of players that they would want to play right now. And he has some value and he's still young. So it makes for a good opportunity for him to go. And if he gets that move to Napoli and he goes on a loan with an obligation, I think it's a win for everybody and it would work out really well.
I have a feeling James United are going to regret letting them go. I have a feeling that in 2 years, you're going to have Premier League clubs lining up to spend 100 million on them after 2. I just have this.
Well, hopefully Šeško works out and we don't have to regret it either way.
Yeah, and I also understand, like, you can't keep a player based on that. I'm sure, you, at some point you have to make a decision, and
because he may not ever become that guy here. That's the challenge too,
And he just wasn't good enough last season on too many occasions, and that has to me have a consequence at United. And it may be that he becomes good enough. It may be that he develops, like. Might have Scott McTominay type resurrection, which I would love to see, because I think Højlund's a decent lad. And it's, as soon as United signed Šeško, though, it was obvious that he was going to be their main guy. Fulham up this weekend, mate. What are you expecting?
Well, what I would certainly do, what I would like to see United do in that game, get Benjamin Šeško in the team, get Ahmad in the team. I think that's going to help a lot of those attacking situations where they lacked the striker up front. and just worry about scoring goals. I would like to see United win games. I don't care if they concede. If you're going to make a goalkeeping error and you're going to concede one goal, score three. At least score goals. Alternatively, if you have worry over these things, not to say I want to see a goalkeeping error because it's inexcusable, but if you scored 2 goals per game, it wouldn't hurt you as much as when you're scoring 0 and these things, and every time you make a mistake, you lose the game because of it. So that's what I like them to focus on. Let's see United start to score goals this weekend. Let's see them score minimum 2 goals against Fulham, because I think if they I looked at Liverpool, the opening game. They were poor defensively. They got ran through by Bournemouth on 2 occasions where Semenyo just marched right through their team and scored. But they scored 4. And that's why they won. And that's why they have the points at the end of it. They scored 4. It's like, at the end of the day, just if you can get the ball in the net enough, usually that helps you through some of the other problems you might have. So that's what I want to see.
If you score more in the opposition, typically you win the game. No,
yeah, usually, right? Yeah, I mean, usually that's the case. I've not yet encountered many circumstances where that doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, of course. When we were leading up to this game at the weekend, we talked about the fact that United preseason and the Everton game, individual error leads to goal. This is something that it keeps happening. Yep. Individual error. The thing about the Bayern individual error is that, to me, is actually not really an individual error. That's a obvious glaring weakness,
because he can't deal with those crosses. It's not a mistake.
It's something that it's one off, right? That's not consistent with this individual, but that is to me a consequence of an obvious flaw. We saw that goal against Spurs, James, right? And when Amorim was talking about no VAR, I don't care, but where's the VAR? I know he was talking about this, but why do we not see this? Goalkeeper's the other end of the field. When was the last time you saw a goalkeeper against United from a corner throw a ball in the net? That part really, really worries me, James. That's something that do
you think they're some of their view here is like, if you take what happened in that game, if you have that flaw, fine. If you stick Benjamin Šeško where Mason Mount is, does that goal happen?
I don't believe I'm not having that.
But you have to do it anyway, don't you? Like, you still have to do what you can to protect the goalie, right?
If my goalkeeper is responsible for scoring a goal because my striker isn't scoring, I got a problem.
I meant defending the set piece.
If you had to do it in reverse, if I said, I want to take my goalkeeper up for a corner because he's 6'4", because my striker is in the box, and to do his job, then we got a problem. To me, with that goal, I'm just a scrote. I knew 5 days before the game that this was a concern. That this was something that you should be looking at, Ruben. Like, this is not an unforeseen error. And if you can't rely on your goalkeeper to do the basics, asking a striker, like when Arsenal scored 2 of those goals against United from a corner, Højlund gave the goal away against Man City. You can't asking strikers to mark from corners is a liability, because they don't want to be there. They don't really know what they're doing. They don't know how to sense danger. And that's what. I don't know about you, James, but after that happened, every time that ball went near Bayern, I don't care if there was nobody around him.
I know you get nervous.
I'm like, Jesus Christ, don't let this roll under your foot. Please get rid of it. I imagine how it feels to be a defender in front of that. Like the nerves, you can't trust that guy. And the fact that not a single club came in for him, this summer or last summer, whatever, is, to me, a big concern. And if United had the money for Believer this summer, they still need another midfielder. And to me, they need to get a goalkeeper, James. I don't care if it's, I'm not a big fan of Emi Martinez because I think he's a bit too small, but I would take him. But anyone that is competent, they have to do that, in my opinion.
I agree. Would you start Tom Heaton then? Would you, of the 3, who would you pick on Sunday?
Yes, I would. I
Okay.
think Tom Heaton is the best of the three of them right now that I would
Yeah.
have most confidence in that
It's
can
good
do
fundamentals. He's good at the basics. Yeah.
just the basics. He's a basic
Yeah.
goal second, he's a basic backup goalkeeper.
Yep.
But we don't have a number one.
Yep.
And I don't believe that goal happens if Tom Heaton starts at the weekend. I think Ruben Amorim was wrong to respond the way he did towards Samuel Luckhurst. People have their own opinions on Samuel, but the question was fair, in my opinion, right? And what did he do the game before? Well, if he was that great, Ruben, why aren't you picking him every week then? Why did you drop him? Right? Because how many times has he played since that Arsenal game? How
Yeah.
many times has he been in the team on merit since then? If he was
Yep.
that great, right? And sorry, like you can sit here and have that attitude if you've got a 72% win rate, but you've lost more than half your games, mate.
Yep.
Right? You haven't won 2 Premier League games in a row. You spent 300 million on attack and you still can't score 250. Listen, I rate him. I think he's a good coach, but I think that he was asked a fair question, James, and that game to be thrown away from a goalkeeper now that came from that belonged to last season to me is not acceptable. That's
sure.
on him. All right, man. I know we're about done. We'll be back again on Monday. Back to porridge, back to normal here. So, quick prediction for this weekend.
I go with I'll go with 3-1. I think United will concede, but I think they'll this is the week we break through on a bunch of goals.
You want to say 3-1?
Mm-hmm.
Who gets the goals? Sesko scores?
Cunha for sure. He looks the most likely to score out of anybody since preseason. I think Cunha will get a goal or two. I think Ahmad will get one as well.
I'm going to go for United to take a narrow win. I hope it's a win where they play well, where they build on last week's performance. And I just like to be able to watch United in a game where they're comfortable, control a game of football, be 2-3 up and enjoy the whole game and not have my arse making buttons whenever they're 2-0 up and a goalkeeper does something.
For sure.
Ripping the arse out of it. I know. All right, folks, we'll go ahead and leave it there. Thanks to all of you for downloading the podcast, as always, for tuning in, for downloads, retweets, and support, all that. Please subscribe to whatever podcast platform you listen to this on, to either myself or Jamesy show. Jamesy, all the best, mate. Take it easy. See you Monday, mate.